Now today, because I'm leaving for 4 weeks, I want to take everything that we've studied and put it into one lesson, a review of what we've studied since January. Listen, class, Christ is risen. And so today we're doing an overview of 2024, because when I get back, it will be almost Christmas. And we have some special events in December. Kathleen and I will be team teaching, which will be really interesting because I'm not one to share my podium up here, my lectern. So it's going to be real interesting for me to learn how to share. We're going to be summing up today what we've studied, so hang on with me because you know most of it. And may God bless the teaching and the reviewing of His Word.
Amen.
Thank you, God, for letting me be here for a whole year. All right. This is the Books of the Bible Library. And what I want you to do is to look at that page. It looks like this. If you don't know the books of the Bible, there are some songs on YouTube that you can learn the books of the Bible. And you can learn, just sing it, because it's important that you know the books of the Bible. And that is one reason why I don't like it when you bring your Bible on your phone. I like real Bibles because you know then where the information is. So hold up your real Bible. Not your phone, honey. There we go. All right. Many of you have it, and I'm going to accept that because I love you. All right. So this is the library. How many books in the Bible library? I didn't hear you. 66. There are 66 books of the Bible's library. And it's divided, that's letter A on your paper, the library of the 66 books of the Bible. This library is divided into 2 parts. What's the first part? Number 1. Old Testament. Yes, you're doing great. The first major part is the Old Testament. How many books? 39. Oh, you peeked, didn't you? 39 books. That's right. So this week, in addition to reading Jeremiah, learn the 39 books of the Old Testament. What is the second major part of the library? What? Good. And how many books? 27. Now, when you take your test for your college survey of the Old Testament, this is going to be a question on it. So now you know. So the New Old Testament and the New Testament. Today we're focusing on the Old Testament because that's how I have spent the last year with you. And so look at your bookshelf on your paper. And we're going to look at the 39 books of the Old Testament. And it is arranged because the first category is 5 books, and then the next category is history, and then poetry, and major prophets, and minor prophets. And that's what Kathleen's going to be teaching in February. So this library is arranged in a particular order. Look at me. When you read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, what you're doing, you're not reading it chronologically, are you? So this is really, really important for people to understand when they read the Bible, that it is not arranged chronologically. Genesis is, but the most of the Bible books are not arranged chronologically. They are not arranged by author, because we have, I forgot how many authors in this library. 40 authors, that's right. 40 authors. It's not arranged by author, and it is not arranged by the size of the books. I got to tell you this, I know I've told you before, but Lyndon took me to the Dublin Library, the college library, Trinity College, wasn't it? in Dublin. How many of you have been there? Oh, good. They took me into the old part of the books. They were arranged by size. Can you imagine? And the bottom shelf was the largest books, and as it went up, the books got smaller. So you had to use their card catalog to find your book, because you're never going to find it by size. You can't find your books by sizes. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So how are they arranged then? And this is number 2. Anybody need help with number 1? Okay. So they are arranged by category or by subject matter. Okay? By category or subject matter. The librarians call those categories genre. That's why the word genre. Books of the Bible arranged by genre. That's a big word for categories or subject matter. So, let's look at the categories. Where's my pointers? Where are my pointers? I need 2 people to point, please. So I need 2 tall men or 2 men. Kevin, bring the pointers, and you can be the first pointer. And who else wants to? Steve, you want to point? Hurry. Yeah, you know what we're doing. And then Kevin, you're back there. That other Kevin, you point with the light. And you 2 boys, give them a hand. Okay, so we're going to look first of all at the categories of the library. The first category is the 5 books of what? Law. The second category is the 12 books of history. And the third one is poetry. I like to call that, however, writings. If you want to change the word poetry to writings, you may. The 4th category is major prophets, and the 5th category is minor prophets. Let's look at them very, very quickly. Stay right there, guys. You'll have to fill in your papers later, but you can do it. All right. Into how many categories is the Old Testament divided? 5. This will be a question on your test when you get your credit in college for Old Testament survey. 5, that's right. What are the 5 categories? We've just done it, but let's look at this. Letter A is law. The first category of 5 books is the law. It's the Mosaic Law, and there are actually, Pastor McNabb taught me this, there are actually 613 laws in the Old Testament laws section. Isn't that interesting? We probably have that many in Oklahoma, but it's not as hard as their laws were concerned. All right. The second one is history. The 12 books of history. Now, the books of history, the books of law cover the Mosaic time, okay? Cover the time that they were patriarchs, and then Moses, and then the people in slavery for 400 years, and how Moses got them out. That's the 5 books. But the books, so the history books start with the Judges. All right, look at your history section, and you see Joshua and Judges. Starts with the Judges. Then it goes through the united monarchy and the 3 kings of Saul, David, and Solomon. That's called the united monarchy. So when you read the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings, you're going to be reading about the monarchy, the united monarchy under those 3 kings. Then we'll be looking at the divided kingdom. Raise your hand if you know understand the divided kingdom. Oh, I hope every hand is up, because that's what we've been studying for a long, long time. The divided kingdom, there was the northern kingdom. What was it called? Israel. So it's the fall and exile of the northern kingdom of Israel. To whom did they fall? Assyria. In 722 BC. And they were scattered throughout the empire, and Israel never came back as a nation. Never. And many of the people were lost. Then It goes through the fall and exile of the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom was called what? Judah. And it fell to whom? The Babylonians in 586 BC. We'll be studying that with Kathleen in the book of Jeremiah. That's what that book is a whole lot about, is the fall of the southern kingdom of Judah. And finally, it ends with the post-exilic period. That's the last, listen up, this period, the post-exilic period, is the last 100 years of the Old Testament. Okay? So that's what we'll be studying because it's Persia. So, let's read the names of all these books. I'm sorry. Let's do the writings. It's the 5 books of poetry, songs, and wisdom. A lot of them written by David. A lot of it was written by Solomon. And letter D is the 5 major prophets. And then we have the minor prophets. And you know this now. Why are the major prophets called major? They're bigger. Because they're bigger. It's not because they're more important. They're just big. And they have a wide range of topics. Okay? And it talks to many nations. Now, got that? There are 5 of them. The major prophets are 5 large books. They cover a wide range of topics and more of a worldwide context as opposed to very narrow. Because the 12 minor prophets, they're called the 12. The Jews call them 12 because in the Jewish Hebrew Bible, they're all in one scroll, or were all in one scroll. The 12 minor prophets. They're real small, so they could put them in one scroll. That's why they're called the 12. And they're generally very narrow in scope. Just like when we studied Jonah, it was totally focused on Nineveh. And so it's narrow in scope, and generally one nation it's referring to. Now I'm going to help you with this. What do I need to help you with?
The blank on E that's not up there is
D. E, minor prophets, called what? The 12, because they are written on one what? Scroll. I have you so trained that if it isn't the same, we get confused, don't we? And I am very proud of you for having that need to fill in all of these blanks. Hey, we just did one page. Let's go back and let's read the names of the books because you're going to learn them this week. Ready, guys? The books of law are Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And the books of history are? They can't hear you on the YouTube if you don't read louder. 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Circle Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther, because those are the post-exilic books after their years in Babylon. That's what we'll be studying in the last 100 years of the Old Testament. Okay? Alrighty, let's look at the poetry, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Okay? If you want to write it down, King Solomon wrote those 3 books. We don't know who wrote Job, and we don't know when Job was written. Many people think the book of Job was written by Moses because it happened way before the Mosaic time. And so that's what the book of Job is. Okay, major prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Lamentations and Jeremiah go together. All right, minor prophets, there are 12 of them. Ready? Go. Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Circle the last 3 prophets minor prophets, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, because they go with the last 3 books of history. They're post-exilic. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you noticed this, but there is a reason there is a gap between 2 Samuel and 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles and Ezra. Because those are the period of the judges, the period of the kings,
Right.
and then the post. And the same thing when you get down to the minor prophets. There's a gap between Zephaniah and Haggai because that's where they're in exile.
Is there a gap there? Okay, good. All right, questions on this page. You want us to make them bigger?
Yeah, on the last 3, 4, 5, I can't see.
Okay, baby. Get your magnifying glass out. They're Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Questions? Yes, Carol.
I didn't get what you're saying behind the post. Up on the first level, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Ezra, that's post what?
Exile. Post-exile. Post means after. After the exile. They come back home to Judah. That's when those books were written.
Okay, and then Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi is post what?
Same thing. Post-exile. They go together. Those 6 books go together. We'll be looking at them. Okay? Okay, now you guys, everybody, if you took a test, this would be on your test. Be sure you understand all that. I'm not going to give you a test, but if you wanted credit in the Bible survey, this is what you would learn. Yes, sir. All righty, this is the Old Testament timeline. You've never seen this before. Kevin, raise your hand. He was the one who helped me put this timeline together. And so it's the Old Testament. This will be on your test too, if you want credit for the Old Testament survey. It starts with creation and it goes all the way to Malachi. All righty? So, I'm going to turn it the other way. I'm going to rotate it. Watch. You see it? Okay, that way you can fill in your blanks. Are you ready? And people always ask me, do we have to remember dates? How many of you ask that of your history and social studies teachers? Are there going to be any dates on the test? I know all of you ask that. There will be a few. All righty? So the creation, the fall, and the flood. I said it's to be determined. Some people say 6,000 years ago. Other people say 1,000,000 trillion years ago. All right? So we don't know. And so the flood and the fall, but that's the order they came. That is Genesis 1 through 8, if you want to put that on your notes. Okay. Or maybe 9. I can't remember. All righty. Then, the Tower of Babel. According to most historians and Bible scholars and Josephus, the Tower of Babel was about 2,200 years before Christ. And you know who tried to rebuild it just about 20 years ago? Saddam Hussein. He said, this is the Tower of Babel. We've got pictures of that in some of your notes. Okay, then the patriarchs. On the patriarchs, be sure and write Abraham, because Abraham was the first father of our faith, wasn't he? The father of the Jewish faith, the father of the Christian faith, and the father of the Muslim faith. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were the patriarchs, and Jacob's 12 sons, but we're not going to get into all that. The way I remember it, it's about 2,000 years before Christ. The patriarchs, Abraham, 2,000 years before Christ. So it's 4,000 years ago. All righty. Let's see what else I have. Moses. He was 1,500 years before Christ. We put him in 500-year increments so that you can remember it. Abraham was 2,000 years before Christ, then 1,500 years before Christ was Moses. All righty? Then we have Joshua and Judges. It's about 500 years for Joshua and Judges. Did you know that Judges, the book of Judges, covers about 500 to 700 years? Did you know that?
Amen.
So it's a big time period of the Judges. Questions on that? All righty. Then we have the United Kingdom. The three kings, Saul, David, and Solomon, and that's about 1000 BC. So everybody can remember those dates, starting with Abraham, 2000 years. Moses, 1500 years before Christ. David, 1000 years before Christ. Okay, now I'm turn the timeline the other way now. So it goes like this, because your lines go that way. How we doing on this, Kevin? Think it works, don't you?
Thank you.
Okie dokie. All righty. Listen, this is so important, because if you don't know this, you will not understand the Old Testament. You'll just be reading it so that you can say you read it. How many of you have done that?
Amen.
You read the Old Testament because somebody told us we need to, and we should. But we really need to take Bible classes so that we can read them with understanding and appreciation. If you understand the divided kingdom, then you will understand the major and minor prophets. So the kingdom was divided. Point to the divided kingdom right there. You guys are doing so well. Okay. It was divided, and there it is up. Okay, the divided kingdom was what we would call 930 BC, okay? After Solomon died in 930 BC, his son, who grew up with the wisest man in the whole history of the world, was so foolish that the kingdom he inherited from his father Solomon split because of his lack of wisdom. Isn't that amazing? So the divided kingdom happened at the death of Solomon up there at the top, 930 over to the right. Over to the right. Whee. Right. What?
I'm like, wait, I'm too short. I'm not looking there. I'm looking over here.
There you go. 930 BC. Right on your notes, at the death of Solomon, the kingdom divided.
Wouldn't it go here?
Yep. There, right there. And put it right there where Shannon pointed. Got it?
Point again, Shannon. Where did you point? Right there. Okay.
There you go. Boy, you guys are good. All righty. Look at the top at the northern kingdom. It was called what? Israel. It took the name of the kingdom. It kept the name of the United Kingdom, and they called themselves Israel. In 722 BC, they were defeated by the Assyrian Empire, and we read all about that and studied that, and taken into exile, and they never returned. It's really a sad story. That's why we call them the 10 lost tribes of Israel, but God knows where they are. Okay? Thank you. That's the northern kingdom. And about 150 years later, the southern kingdom was defeated and exiled by Babylon. That's when Daniel was taken to Babylon. That's when Ezekiel was taken to Babylon. We're going to study that. But that was in 586 BC. Okay. Questions? Am I going too fast? Confused? No, you won't be confused because you just need to look at this when you get home. Okay. Now, here's the rest of the timeline. Go to the Babylonian captivity, 586 BC. They were taken into exile. Follow the line down to Cyrus, the decree of Cyrus. And he was a Persian king, and he said, all the captives of the Babylonian Empire can go home and rebuild their temple. His name was Cyrus, My husband, I know you know, but you need to bring that when I come back. The cylinder. My husband took me to the London Museum, and he said, what do you want to see in the London Museum? I said, I want to see, where is Adrian? Okay, Adrian, when you go to the London Museum in April, you want to see the Cyrus cylinder. It was the actual cylinder on which he had written the fact that everybody could go home, including the Jews. And that's called the post-exilic period. It isn't on there, but you know how to write post, P-O-S-T, then a dash, and that's exile. That's when they went home, after they were in exile. And you know, there were at least 1 million Jews captured in Babylon. You know how many went home? Cyrus said, every one of you can go home. You know how many did? About 50,000. And that's in Ezra and Nehemiah. And then Esther was all during the post-exilic time. Esther was written during the post-exilic time. She stayed in Persia. Her uncle Mordecai stayed in Persia. Okay. That was in 539 BC. Did I write that down?
Nope.
Okay, there it is. 530. Oh, and there's the word post-exilic. I'm good. So be sure. And Steve, raise your hand, Steve, ordered on the Amazon or somewhere. He got a replica. He couldn't get the real one, but he got a replica of the Cyrus cylinder. And so he's going to bring it to class when you remember. Okay? Okay. When I remember. Now, what history books, I already told you, but this is going to help you. I love how y'all help one another. Help your partners if they need help. Okay. What history books record the events of the post-exilic period? Yes, circle those. Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. You don't even have to write them down. They're up there. Circle them. Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. The last 3 books of history in the post-exilic period. What minor prophets ministered to the people in post-exilic Judah? Ready, everybody? Who? That's right. Malachi was the last book written of the Old Testament. After Malachi, the Old Testament closes. That was in 430 BC. You might want to write that down. Because after him is the 400 years before Matthew was written. Okay? Did I get it all? Now, I want you to do like Kathleen does. Tab that in your notebook. Put a tab on it because it will tell you all of the important events of the Old Testament. And we've covered it all except the post-exilic period. Questions? Malachi was written in about 430 BC, 30 years before the Testament closed. Tell Kevin thank you for making this timeline with me. All right, here we go. This is what I told you to do last week, isn't it? How many of you completed it to the best of your ability? How many of you had a few questions you couldn't get? Okay, good. That's good. How many of you tried? What? Look up here. How many of you tried to do this page? Okay. All right. It's page 59 in your notebook, or there's some in the back. Anybody need this page? Okay. Jerry, there are 3 or 4 hands up here. Would you bring it? And everybody raise your hand if you need this page. This is the review of the divided kingdom. It's so cool because this is just going to answer so many of your questions. Okay. Underneath underneath this map on your paper, whew, I don't have it, but I don't need it. You have this. You have the contrast, and then you have the southern kingdom, then you have the northern kingdom. You see those on your notebook? I mean on your paper. Okay. Look at your map, and you can answer this question. Just look at your map. How many tribes in the southern kingdom? 2. Do you know what they were? Judah and Benjamin. And Benjamin was such a minor tribe, they called themselves Judah. So you put it right there. 2. Judah and Benjamin. Then you go over to the northern kingdom, letter A. How many tribes, look at your map, in the northern kingdom? 10. And you don't have to list them, but if you know all the 12 tribes, you can do it. Okay. Do you see how this works? Letter B. What was the name of the southern kingdom? Judah. They took the name of their larger tribe. There were only 2. They took the name of their larger and most important tribe, and that was the tribe of David as well. How many, Judah. What was the name of the northern kingdom? Israel. They kept the name because they had 10 tribes. How many of you got all that by yourself? Oh, good. Nathan, how are you doing?
Tired.
What did he say?
Tired.
Tired? You go to, I don't like it when kids tell me they're tired. You go to bed. All right. What was the capital city of this Judah? Jerusalem. That's right. Now on your map it says the capital city of Israel was Shechem. That was their first first capital. King Ahab changed it and it became the most important capital city. What was it? Good. Right, Samaria under Shechem. I think Samaria may have been north of Shechem. I just can't remember. But it was Samaria. That's the most important capital city. Letter D. First king, look at your map. Who was that? Rehoboam. That was the son of Solomon. You might want to write that down. He was the son of Solomon. Rehoboam was. A very foolish young man. And all of his friends who grew up in the palace with him, very foolish. My husband likes to say, what's that statement you always make about power? Power? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Something like that. These young men had the power of a very powerful nation, and they destroyed it through their foolishness. And the northern kingdom, first king, was Jeroboam. He was an official of Solomon. When did this happen, by the way? When did this kingdom divide?
930 BC.
Very good. Where did you look?
The chart we just finished.
The timeline. Very good. Temples. Where was the temple in the southern kingdom? Jerusalem. That's right. It was Solomon's temple. And Babylon in 586 destroyed it. That was the end of the first kingdom period, by the way. Now the northern kingdom, Jeroboam, wanted to keep his people happy. He didn't want them to go to the southern kingdom, to Jerusalem, on the feast days. So he made 2 gods, 2 false idols, in the shape of what? A calf. And he put one in Bethel. That was the most southern part of the northern kingdom. And he put the other calf in the most northern part of the kingdom. Where was that? Dan. That's right. Now then, how many kings? Oh, and this chart I gave you with the kings and the prophets that Kevin put on one page for us. Thank you again, Kevin. That'll help you with these kings and prophets as well. How many kings in the southern kingdom? Anybody know? 20. That's right.
My paper says number of good kings.
Well, we're not there. We're at number of kings. Letter F. How many kings in the northern kingdom? 19 or 20. Depends on how you want to count them. They ruled side by side at the same time. So when you read a prophet, it will say, this was written during the reign of King Hezekiah of Judah and King Rehoboam II of Israel. Something like that. That's how you know how to read your prophets. You look for the kings, then you look here at this page. All right, here we go. How many good kings did Judah have? 8. 8 good kings out of 20. Isn't that sad? The scriptures say they did evil in the eyes of God, or they did good and they walked in the steps of their father David. So, how many good kings in the northern kingdom? 0. No good kings, because Jeroboam led them to worship other gods. It says they walked in the steps of Jeroboam. Are leaders important to a nation? Yes, they are. H, the number of dynasties. That means here is the first king, and then how many people did he have after him? No, the number of dynasties in Judah was 1. It was the dynasty, or what the Bible says, the house of David. Do you understand that? Every one of the kings in Judah were in the direct descendant line of David, who was the direct descendant of Messiah, Jesus. Don't get confused. How many dynasties in the northern kingdom? 8. 8 dynasties. They murdered their kings, assassinated their kings. They lasted for 2 and 3 days, some of them. And then a few of them, like Ahab, had a dynasty for a few generations. It's really sad. Very bad people. Letter I. Contrast continued, southern and northern. Who was the southern kingdom conquered by? Babylon. That's right, 586 BC. So, how would you find out how long the southern kingdom lasted? How would you do it? You subtract 586 from 930. 930 was the first year of both kingdoms. So it was like, what, 300 years? Somebody subtract it. Doug, you're our mathematician in here. How many years? 930 minus 586. The northern kingdom was conquered by Assyria in 722 BC. That's before even Babylon. So, how many years did Judah last? 344 years, because you went 930 minus 586. Now we're doing math. So it lasted 344 years. How long did the northern kingdom last? 218 years. 930 minus 722. What? Okay, 208. Okay, I'm a history teacher. English teacher. Oh dear. 208. Okay, I'll try to fix that. The last king. Look at your chart and go way down on Judah to the last king. Who was that? Zedekiah. A wicked, wicked king. Jeremiah worked with this king. He put Jeremiah in prison. He isolated him in the pavilion of the palace. He put him in a pit because he didn't like the prophecies of Jeremiah. Who was the last? Now look at the northern kingdom and go all the way down. Who was the last king? Hoshea. That's right. Nathan, do you have a pencil? It is filled out. How'd you do that? What? No, it wasn't magic. I know you drive and you're 12 years old, but I don't know that you did that by magic. When did you do that? Did you do that by yourself? Give him a hand. I don't know how he did it, but he's one of my very, very special. Do you know I was trying to write down the number of kids we have in here? We have 12 young people in this class. Isn't that awesome? And we even have a baby. 2 babies, Isley and Jalen. All right, let's keep going. The Bible passage of the fall. If you wanted to read in the Bible about the fall of Judah, anybody know where you would read? Yep, that's right. Look at the last king on your prophets and kings chart. Zedekiah, and it has where you can read it. 2 Kings 24 and 25. All righty? And also in Jeremiah, and also in Chronicles, but I didn't write them down. 2 Chronicles 15? 36. Okay, put that down because you really want to read that because we'll be studying that. Oh, and Jeremiah 39. Okay. The northern kingdom, where would you read about the fall of Israel to Assyria? It's a sad, sad chapter. 2 Kings 17. Now, this would be on your test, by the way, if you were going to get credit in Bible history. Look how smart y'all are. Okay, now this is the hard part, and not sure I'm correct. The non-literary prophets to Judah. Non-literary means those prophets who are recorded in the Bible, but they never wrote their writings. And their speeches and their prophecies are never written down in a book. So we call them non-literary. The non-literary prophets, and if you don't want to do this, I understand, but Micaiah was one of them. He's the one who spoke to Rehoboam and he said, "Shape up, boy." But he didn't. And then Elijah and Elisha were prophets to the northern kingdom. Whenever you read about those prophets, they're prophesying to Israel, the northern kingdom. Questions on that? Somebody talked to me. I heard it. What?
You've got down here 2 non-literary.
I know, but I don't remember who they are. But I think this book tells you. I don't know. I forgot. Okay, who were the minor prophets that prophesied to Judah? So you would find this on your kings and prophets. So find Judah. The next column is the kings, and then the prophets. Go on down and you'll see Joel. Was Joel a minor or a major prophet? So put him down. Micah, was he a minor or a major prophet? Minor. Write him down. Isaiah, what was he? A major prophet. So go ahead and write that on letter O. The major prophets to the southern kingdom. Well, I kind of got out of order. Okay, never mind. Okay, let's just keep going. Are you looking at this paper? You're not? Okay, I'll read it to you then. Zephaniah and Habakkuk. They're all minor prophets. Jeremiah, Daniel, and Ezekiel, major prophets. Okay, look over. Am I confusing you? Look at your kings and prophets and find Israel. You're too busy writing, aren't you? Find prophets to Israel. There's Elijah and Elisha, non-literary. Amos, major or minor? Minor. And Hosea, major or minor? Okay. So when you read those prophets as you're reading the Bible, read them understanding to whom they were written. Makes so much more sense. Okay? Major prophets of the southern kingdom, all 4 of them. Israel was the one, Isaiah. Isaiah was the one major prophet who talked about Israel, the northern kingdom, and the rest of the major prophets lived after Israel was defeated. Is that too much information? What is your name?
Nina.
Dina?
Nina.
Nina. It's such a pleasure to have you today. Usually it's not this bad. We're putting the whole Old Testament in 3 pages.
Yeah.
What's your man's name?
It's my nephew.
Your nephew.
Yeah,
He's
his name's
cute.
Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. Okay, this is Nina, her nephew Tyler, and they came last week with Jacob. So, welcome.
Thank you.
You're going to love our class. You got to come 3 times to really appreciate us, okay? Okay. This is the last one, the minor prophets to the Gentile nations. You know both of them. Who was the first minor prophet to write to the Gentile nations totally?
Jonah.
Jonah. He wrote to whom?
Assyria.
Did I not put it down? Okay. Jonah and Nahum to Assyria. That's right. So let's put that down first because, well, however you want to do it. Yeah. Jonah and Nahum wrote solely to a Gentile nation, Assyria. So you got to read it understanding that. Obadiah was a minor prophet. How many of you have read his book? If you've read the Old Testament, you've read his book. Anybody know to whom he wrote? Edom, a really wicked nation. They were founded by Esau, Jacob's twin brother. If you care to know that. And when Babylon came into Israel and started capturing people and putting chains on them and taking them to Babylon, Edom, the nation of Edom, which is south of the Dead Sea, would wait in the trails and behind mountains that they knew the Jews would run by, and they would capture them and sell them to the Babylonians. So Obadiah's prophecy to Edom is not a good prophecy. And Jonah and Nahum to Nineveh. How you doing, Jack? Better. Good. I'm glad. Okay.
That's good preaching.
And that's it. I love this class. Jesus is alive in room 105.